Welcome back to Black Girl Couch Reviews. I'm your host, Christina. We are back for another recap and review of The Haunting of Hill House season 1, episode 7, Two Storms. It's been a while since we've been back to The Haunting of the Hills in the House. I love the show, don't get me wrong, but after last episode, I needed a moment, okay? I needed to figure out what the fuck I was watching and put my ducks in a row to get back into this. And okay, let's just be real, I was totally and utterly captivated by the Vampire Academy, and it threw off Haunting of Hill House because I was not planning on throwing that in there quite as quickly. But we are going to finish this one out today. I'm going to be doing episodes 7 and 8. So we're just going to talk about Two Storms on this one, and in the next podcast I will talk about episode 8. It was, of course, directed by Michael Flanagan. I call him Michael. It's Mike on Wikipedia, but Mike Flanagan. He also wrote this one along with Jeff Howard. I gave this one just an 8 out of 10. It was a really good episode. It kind of caught me in the feels unexpectedly in a few scenes. Very realistic. I love the dynamic between this family. And it was a little close to home on some scenes, and we'll definitely talk about those. But really strong episode. Can't wait to see what happens next. A little bit of news and gossip before we do jump in. Steven Spielberg came out, and he coming for Netflix. What is up with all these salty ass directors coming out on their hell horse? Now, this is my problem with Steven Spielberg. You was responsible for that Transformer shit that keeps coming out every fucking year, even though it is beyond tragic what has happened to the storyline, even though it wasn't really a big one anyway in the first one. But look, we all know what those are. Those are special effects to get people in the theater and watch shit blow up on a big ass screen. That's what those movies are. I am tired of this old generation of directors coming out like, it's me. Why they got? Oh, I'm sorry. Is the Oscars looking too black for you? Too brown? All those people that are rejected by these damn studios that want a particular thing, which is basically, as we all know, the same shit over and over rehashed. So, what did they say about the remake? And I was just like, oh my God, The Sandlot. Honestly, come on, I remember The Sandlot. That is a movie that is near and dear to me. To put it on a television show, I'm just like, are you serious? Really? Y'all can't come up with anything else. There are a million genres out there. There's shit I write even right now. On my spare time, I have ideas for things. I know there are other writers out there that have these out-of-the-box ideas, and shows like Netflix and Hulu and Prime, they're giving these directors and these writers chances that big Hollywood just isn't. So get off of your ass and your high horse, wherever you the fuck think you are. Like, what if someone decided all these complaints and he said, I'm gonna get up on there and I'm gonna tackle this on? Like, get the fuck out of here, because that's basically what he wants to do. Ban him from the Oscars, because apparently how they set their stuff up, it's not how they feel is, you guys got 13 episodes to tell a story. We got 2 hours, and I'm sorry, what? So you can't do in 2 hours with Netflix having the shit as filler anyway. But then you do have the shows that are getting recognized that are more than just filler, like episode after episode, just really good. And you guys are getting upset because their quality is better because it didn't come out in a theater, and because Netflix probably doesn't release their numbers. And we all know that I think in the article that I was reading, they were talking about how Netflix kind of targets that market that can't afford to go out to the movies and spend $12 fucking on a ticket, right? Then you get to the concession fucking stand, and then that's another 20, and you're talking about just yourself, okay, at a movie theater. So you take your family who says maybe 2 or 3 kids, you're going out spending $100 just to see a movie that may be good. Maybe. Come on. I get what we're saying. The industry is suffering, but movies have been suffering for a while, and that is not because of Netflix. It's because y'all produce shitty ass content. And then you're getting mad at Netflix and the streaming services because they're charging $7.99 for some decent ass content. And now you're just salty as shit, is how I feel about it. Because there's just no reason why after the Oscars, all of a sudden they start winning shit. Then you're going to be like, oh, well, this is a problem. Well, no, what's a problem is the fact that you are getting millions of dollars and you make your one great film. Then you put your name on shitty ass projects afterwards, and they get shitty at the consumer because they're not paying money for that shit anymore. They're like, why? I can sit at home. I've been sitting at home for a while. I haven't been to the theaters in a long while. I think since what? Black Panther? No, Avengers. I know. I remembered that. I think we talked about this last time. So, and I'm sorry I'm even passionate about it, but I'm just upset because every time I go in to look at these things that are coming out, I want to go to the theaters and see a movie. But every time I go into that lineup to see what's playing, I'm just like, ugh. Not worth it. It's not worth my money. So how about Mr. Steven Spielberg? You talk to your people and talk about making better content. And that's where the thing with the movies are. It has shit to do with streaming service, blah, blah, blah. It's because real people like fans who love going to the theater are not about to spend that hard-earned money that we get for y'all stupid ass shit. That's what it is. So until you address that, then shut the fuck up, go on somewhere. I'm not even disappointed. I'm just more like, why? Like, where was your relevance at? Like, I don't even understand. Like, Avatar is a good ass movie. Okay? When Avatar comes out 2 and 3, I'm going to go see that movie because it's a good ass movie and I know I'm going to get my bang for my buck. And I think that we are starting going to this society where, again, the middle class people, they're just like, we're not going to see. And then not only that, sorry, on a tangent with this, because this is going to be all my news and goss. Because, oh shit, what was I about to say? Because I was just thinking about something else that came out. Oh, what was it? See, I lost my train of thought. Should have kept going. But I just don't like that Steven Spielberg decided that he was going to be the one that came out of nowhere and decided to do this, and that he made a whole bill about addressing it. It's unfair to the platform, and Netflix came out with a response, and I didn't even read the response from Netflix because I'm already siding with them. There's just no excuse for people. It's kind of like when well, no, shit, that's different. That was illegal downloading. Yeah, I can even see that. Like, if you were coming after something that was illegal, like, if you want to bitch about something, go after the fucking people that's still jailbreaking Fire Sticks. I'm not saying we should. To each their own. Right? And how people got to get, shows and stuff is how they got to get it. I mean, other countries can't even get some of the content that we put out, which is really sad. Because, if you're in a country that doesn't really, is not into the westernization, you got to find, Netflix is like a boon to them because they finally get to see some American content. And I think to not even address the benefits of what Netflix and other streamers, I'm saying Netflix because that's who he came for. I feel like he could easily say the same shit about, because he wasn't throwing a fit about Handmaid's Tale. That shit was, I guess, apparently too Caucasian for him to go after it. And that's why I think people are having a problem with this, because of the fact that he's using the race card, and he actually used Roma in specific as a one of the things he was going after. And the first thing, anyone who has common sense right now in where our culture is right now knows, like, oh, okay, so you're not going to say anything about when Prime got, what did they get Oscar nominations for? Shit, I know it's something, The Marvelous, Maisie's, all this other stuff, right? But all of a sudden, Roma comes up and what? We got problems. Oh no, dang, what was the other one? Orange is the New Black. That's another whole bunch of cast that is fairly minority. Don't come after the minority part and act like people ain't stupid. That's all I'm saying. And I feel like he really made himself look bad, because you have up and coming directors like Ava DuVernay and Jordan Peele who have went to these damn places trying to get their stuff off the ground, and they have been rejected. And yet Netflix and other stuff are giving them opportunities. And now y'all are looking like, oh, well, now they're getting recognized for their work. Maybe, why don't you just try to look at something that's not the same shit and who happens to not be the majority of the cast Caucasian, and give them these shots and opportunities, then maybe they wouldn't have to take their really great ideas that Oscars recognize over to them. And then we can't even, oh, that's what I was going to go after. It was the Oscars itself. First and foremost, I ain't watched a damn Oscar in a long ass time. I just haven't, because of the fact that it has been the same thing over and over. I think this is the first time really that it's been, and I didn't even watch the Oscars this year. Even the best movie that they gave was Green Book, I believe. Even the people, even us was looking like, that's suspect. Like, anyone could have won over Green Book. That was some bullshit right there. Spike Lee wasn't even like, oh yeah, yay. Like, no, we didn't even fucking do this right. We ended up focusing the majority on this movie. It was supposed to be about Mahershala Ali, but all of a sudden it was about the other dude who happened to be Caucasian. We don't make this shit up, y'all. The movies talk for themselves. So if you're, a female or of color and you are wanting a shot in Hollywood, that it's been the thing that they are being rejected. That is the thing. Come out and talk about that, Steven Spielberg. How women can't get rights, how they're still underpaid, this, that, and the, there's so many other things you can go after. To me, you just sound ridiculous, and you sound like you're, I'm not gonna say it, because he ain't, but y'all know what I'm thinking. I'm not gonna say it, because I got respect for Steven Spielberg, for what he has done for the industry in the past, that it is very disappointing to hear him come out, and out of all the things you wanted to pick a platform at, you came out on the, I don't even want to say that, because I almost said Republican side, but all Republicans aren't terrible. But he definitely came, let's just say, he came out on the Trump side of things. Because out of all the things you could have went after, that you even went there, it was sad. Speaking of, Ava DuVernay is doing another Netflix series to end this out, because it's just hilarious. Called When They See Us, coming out in May. It's based on the Central Park 5. I actually watched that. Not that it came out yet, obviously. It comes out in May, but I watched the documentary on that. That's some really, that's some deep shit right there. If you've never heard of the Central Park 5 or read up on them, it was, of course, way past I think I was, 2 when this happened. Definitely go back and look at your history. It's very tragic, because the thing about the Central Park 5 is there's a lot of tapes, and then you can kind of just watch for yourself things unfold, and it even makes it even more tragic. It's so yeah, go watch that. I'm probably not, because I already cried once, and some things hit way too much. It's like, I don't need to keep seeing it over and over again. I will say this much: I am happy but sad on some of the stories that are coming out, because I really want to see stories about our history on TV, but I'm also really kind of, and yeah, y'all gonna come at me, but I'm tired of the slave movies too, and I'm tired of just the hip-hop movies. As I will say this much, as African Americans and Mexican, whatever the case that you may be, it's nice to hear or get stories that relate to your culture. However, sometimes we are getting a little overly with the true life stories, because those are the ones that win Oscars, quote unquote. I would like to see our minds kind of expand a little further, because as someone said to me as I was talking, and that's how I'm going to wrap this up, because I do need to talk about this episode. But and so I was bringing up to someone for Black History Month, as I was doing one of these presentations about one of the first, dang, I forgot their name already, I'm terrible. But they came up with the idea of inoculation because it actually was brought from Africa. So something from Africa, from a free Black person, was introduced in America. And it was later the reason why we are now being inoculated for these diseases, around smallpox at the same time, right? And a lot of people didn't jump on this at first, because it was a preacher in the free Black man. They didn't jump on it at first because they thought it was terrible. However, most of their patients that they did inoculate were saved, and it had a very low mortality rate. it still took until the Civil War when it really kind of got popular and got more attention. However, the reason why I picked this story, as I had sat in African American history class myself, was every story about a black person isn't about a slave or about a maid or about being like, I'm not saying that's not what happened. I'm saying it's not the entire story, right? So there is part of me as a black woman that would like to see some stories out there that doesn't always have to focus on our all of the strife and the horror of what we went through, or I wouldn't say our ancestors went through, and start telling some of these stories that I know there aren't a lot out there, but they are out there. And I would like to start seeing, as well as these stories based on our past, stories about that, we may not know so much about, because all we seem to be focused on is the slavery aspect of everything. And I hope I made sense there, but we're going to end it on that. As far as how I felt about Steven Spielberg going on, I probably repeated myself and went all off on a tangent, but that's how I've been feeling. So The Haunting of Hill House episode 7 starts with Shirley and Theo. They are looking at poor Nellie. She's putting the final touches on her. This is the viewing, right? I have been to 2 funerals in my entire life, and they were back to back. The first tragedy ever in my family was when I was 33. So that is, yes, 3 decades of never being to a funeral. So this brought back some really bad memories for me. Thanks a lot, show. But Theo is remarking about how in the movies they say that they look like they're sleeping. That's bullshit. I'm looking at her. She does not look like she's sleeping. She looks dead. Great work though. And Shirley's like, thanks. As she's still, touching her up. And she says that people say at funerals what they're wishing, that they're sleeping, that they're in a better place, that whatever they want to feel about the moment. And Theo wants to know how bad Nell looked when she came in. Now Theo is 3 sheets to the wind and has been this entire episode, which is me. I asked at this time, why, Theo? Why do you want to know what she looked like? And Shirley is like, are you seriously asking me that question? And she's like, no, not really. Theo says that, Shirley anyway, remarks that she has been drinking all day. You need to slow down. She's like, this is a funeral. What do you expect to be thinking? I thought this was the funeral at first, and it's the viewing, because I'm used to it differently. How we had it was, they had the viewing. I think I've never been to the viewing, right? I think we said we had the viewing. I don't know. Because when my cousin passed, he was the first one. He was 30 years old. It was very out of the blue. So kind of, like I said, a lot of what was going on in this episode kind of brought some feelings back. And there was one scene in particular where I cried. Seriously, bawled my eyes out because it was such a realistic reaction and a kind of response like mine. But I remember just going to the funeral, and he was there in the coffin, and it was open, and I don't recall a viewing the day before. So maybe that's just something we just decided not to do. I don't know. I was not involved in any of the planning. But Kevin's husband, because Thea goes to refill her drink. She's like, I don't give a fuck what you're saying, Shirley. Kevin comes in, like, people are bringing food. Who's gonna eat all this food? I'm like, who's bringing the food? Because I thought way more people were gonna show up at this viewing than showed up. It was just the family. So and which is weird to me, right? Because she was married. Nell, that is. You would think that her family or Arthur's family would show up to, because that's their daughter-in-law. And I could have sworn at the wedding there was like some black people on that side of the family. So he comes over to get a drink, and that's when I was wrong in my notes, because I thought this was happening at night, because I was like, who has a fucking funeral at night? But everybody in the show and getting tipsy. Because the dad, or Kevin grabs a drink, Shirley takes a drink out of his drink. He's nervous as hell because Theo is still wearing her gloves off the chain. I love her so much. They're talking about Luke, like, he's gonna fuck this shit up for us. Theo is super harsh because she's like, he gonna come in here, be coming down. We gotta watch his ass come down from his high as he pukes on our sister. And Shirley's like, Jesus, Theo, but hide the purses. And I'm like, facts. That's facts. I have several family members, unfortunately, that do have issues with drugs. And the first thing that everyone knows is hide your fucking purses. I ain't gonna lie, because my one cousin came to the funeral and he don't even have a drug problem. We just know he has a stealing problem. We was like, hide your purse. Exactly what they do. Dad and Steve are flying in with Luke, which I was like, there is a huge gap. We need to see what was going on with Steve and Dad. Dad, apparently, we find out, has never been to Shirley's. His name's Hugh, right? He's never been to his own daughter's house. What the hell? This family is out of control. But Shirley, as they hear the doorbell ring, Kevin goes to get it, and she's like, please, Luke, don't fuck this up. It's like, why y'all messing with Luke? Leave him alone. I get it, though. Who was it? I think Theo or Dad, one of them, remarked that Nellie had tried to get everyone together. Yeah, that was Shirley, and that's when Theo said someone should have told her she didn't have to try so hard. Theo is just like, that's her coping mechanism, right? She tells jokes because she tries to tell Kevin what his coping mechanism is later. Theo is definitely I'm about to get straight up trashed because if I don't drink, then I'm gonna punch something. She knows way more than everyone else, right? Because I feel like Steve is in denial. Luke knows what's up. Shirley is she just feels like everything is happening to her, but she needs to take an active role in her life. I don't know. Shirley's just that one. I be trying to get really close to her, but I don't. And then you got Theo, who kind of knows what's up for the most part. Nellie did. I feel like the only person who don't know, I think Shirley, no, she feels like she's more with Steve, but she felt like she was just taking what Dad was saying in. She's in the middle somewhere, I guess. But that was still, I was like, damn, girl. Theo, stop it. Nellie is right there, and she can hear you. She's in the room. Steve comes in with Luke, and Luke is looking sober as hell. Looked like he got fucked up in a fight, but still sober. They all hug, except for Theo, because she ain't into hugs. When Steve goes to give her one, she's like, And we see Steve have an interesting reaction. This is the one that Steve was hurting me all in the entire episode. And y'all know I love Steve. Ain't shit Steve, but I love him. And he tries to take a few steps to go to the body and say something to his sister, but he can't do it. He starts talking to the weather, and Luke is just staring at her body. And of course, everyone knows that Luke is the closest because they were twins, right? So the poor husband, Kevin, he's just like, do you need something to drink? He said that to everyone who walked in. We got plenty of food. Who made that food? I still don't know. Shirley is asking about Dad. He says Dad's still at the hotel. He told us to go ahead and go forward because, you know, he obviously has to have conversations with his wifey, which we find out a little bit later. Shirley is totally surprised that Luke is better than she expected. And Steve's like, yeah, actually, he's been sober for, I think, like months. And she's like, well, what do you mean? Because before they had brought up that when Steve had found Luke, he didn't even have no fucking shoes on. So she's like, she's thinking he must have been high or something. And he's like, so she starts to ask questions. Well, what was happening when you picked him up? And he's like, we'll talk about that later. And Luke freaks out and says he can't do this. Steve goes to check on Luke. And I was like, Steve? And he even hugs him, tells him to take his time, tell him we're going to do it together. I don't know if he was just using Luke to cover up his own feelings, but I thought it was very sweet that he was checking on Luke. And there are a few moments that, you know, Steve ain't shit, but he really does. He wants to be an older brother. He feels like that's his role. And I feel like he wants to help, but it's just not part of his personality. Or at least I think he's just, no, let me even stop there. I think he is over what's happening, and he doesn't see it as family tragedy and haunted house. He sees his family as having a serious mental issue problem. So that is when Theo asks about Lee, and he tries to tell them, you know, we didn't come together, and they're like, why? He's like, I want to do this right now. We didn't, and they're like, why? He's like, we're taking a break. And he's like, what do you mean take a break? He's like, I don't talk about this shit right now. And he gets all types of offensive, like, this is not the time. You know, I'm trying to be here for my brother, not talk about my marriage. But then he quickly gets up and is like, well, if you were married as long as I was, then he's like, oh, I'm sorry, Theo, that came out wrong. And Theo's like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I was just going to get a drink for you. That's it. Like, your marriage is over. And your sister is dead. You need a drink. And he's like, thank Christ. And I feel like Shirley was the one wanting all the deets, but Theo's like, join the club of life ain't shit. Luke and Steve finally get up because Luke says, I'm ready. And they go to view Nell. And it's Steve who's the one that ends up breaking down. He's the only one I really saw cry. And I ain't gonna lie, this got to me. I cried my ass off because he was just like, he went up to her and you thought it was gonna be Luke to break down. And he's just like, oh yeah, there it is. She's really dead, you know, because it is different when you get that phone call that someone's gone. And then it doesn't become reality until you walk into that parlor and you see them in that casket. It's not easy, man. If you've never been through that, it's tragic. It's heartbreaking. It's not something that you easily take in. And it was nice to see Steve out of all the other family members. Because like I said, no one else was really crying. And I'm sure they all grieve in their own ways. And we could see that. But to see Steve, the one who was, you know, so callous, be the one that actually sees his baby sister in that coffin and just can't deal. He starts crying. He loses his composure. He goes to get himself a drink. Shirley's even like, because Luke goes to reach for him and he's like, it's fine. I'm just, you know, I just need a minute. And Shirley's like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting this from you. Are you okay? And he's like, it's going to be fine. I just need a minute. Give me a minute. But Luke runs off after Steve has his moment because he's like, it's not fair. And of course, he wants to be there for Luke, but he's really having a moment. He needs to take a second to take a drink. And Shirley says they don't have to stay in the room. You think? I don't understand why they stayed in this. Especially after Shirley tells everyone that this is the business side, and there actually is a home where their nieces and nephews are. I don't know. Let's go over there. But they needed to get some stuff out, so they clearly wanted to stay in this room. But Steve is like, it's fine, and he takes a drink, and apparently he has seen dead mom, because he looks over, sees her by Nell, and he's like, get it together. Looks over, and she's still there. And he can't deal. He's freaking the hell out. Theo is still drinking. I don't know how much Theo had to drink, but she can take back them bottles, y'all. She says that she drinks when she wants to punch something. And then asks for the deets from Steve about what happened to Nell. And Nell's like, well, all I know is that she went to the house and killed herself. They're like, no, we need more information because apparently no one has asked these questions yet. And he says, well, though I'm not trying to hold anything back. That's all I actually know. Hey, Shirley, I mean, busted on you. You spoke to the coroner, right? And Shirley says, yeah, she broke her neck. She snapped it when she hung herself. Luke doesn't think it's that simple. Shirley's like, that's what the coroner said. And that's when poor Kevin comes in with the iced tea because it took him a long time to get an iced tea for poor Luke. He probably hiding. I don't blame him. These situations make you want to hide, and it's uncomfortable. These kids ain't all seen each other in a while. They got a lot of baggage that they haven't addressed. Things off the, y'all already know that liquor and beef are not two things that, let's be real, I ain't gonna lie, there have been fights at funerals. The two funerals were at, luckily one went smooth, the other one had a fight, and I was just like, Jesus. I wasn't there at either situation, thank God. Like, after the funeral, I was like, no, I'm going home to drink myself, and I just want to be left alone. So Theo thinks she couldn't have went to the house because of mom, because that's when she asked, like, I don't think she went because of mom, because that's what Steve thinks. Like, she went there to see mom. That's the only reason why she would have went back to the house. Theo's like, bullshit. She didn't even know mom that well. She was too young. Apparently mom would die when they were 6, the twins, because she asked Luke, do you remember mom? And Luke's like, And so Steve's like, well, you explain. And she's like, punch and drinks, because she know what's up. She don't want to say, I think it's the house. We find out the Dudleys and Dad hasn't said shit either, because the Dudleys, or one of the Dudleys, is the one who found the body, and Dad hasn't talked to them about what happened that night at all. Shirley they ask about Dad, like, hey, what did y'all talk about on the flight? Like, this didn't come up. And they're like, well, we were in first class and Dad was in coach. And then Shirley tries to throw shade at him. I really like these moments where they're trying to find some humor with each other. Like, why did you put Dad in coach? He's like, he wanted to go in the coach. Hey, I wasn't a coach alone. I took Luke with me. And the doorbell rings. They all know it's Dad. Shirley was looking, she acted like she was about to get up, but she was looking at Kevin like, you're totally getting that. Because they all know it's Dad. And they all have this very awkward ass look on their faces as they're greeting their dad. He comes in, he's shaking like it's really coming down there. He looks like the dad when he came in, Hugh. He looks like he was startled, and we find out it's because he sees them all as kids still. He's stuck somewhere and looking at his children as children. But the cinematography that they did with the panorama shots that they were doing, it was spectacular. I really like this show, and their transitions and their shots are really great, particularly in this room, because that's where they were the most of this episode. And yet I did feel like a lot went on despite them being really in one location. He says that Shirley has a beautiful home. And Shirley goes, because of course she is all about the parents' approval, because that's what she wants more in life. And she starts over explaining, oh, this is the business side. The other side is actually where my home is. Oh, never mind. You don't need all this information. Theo points out that it's been a hot minute. And I'm like, how long is a minute? And poor guy. Dad's like, yeah, it's been a long minute. The longest of minutes. And poor Kevin, he trying, because he's like, can I get you something to drink, something to eat? We got plenty of food. The boys ain't even get up to greet them. But then again, they've seen him already, right, on the trip over. Theo points out that Kevin's coping mechanism is becoming a waiter. That was funny, because that would also be me. I'm like, what can I do not to be around any of you? You need something? Let me go get it. I'll come back in 20 minutes. Dad is very terrible at trying to make some speeches, because he's trying to thank everyone for coming there, being there, and he's trying to have words for them, but he doesn't have any. He keeps stopping himself every 5 minutes. He says, look at y'all, you're all grown. He says, as he's talking to Shirley, he says, look at them, they're all grown up. And it looks like he's talking to someone else, which we find out is Olivia, which is the wife, the mom. We don't find it out in the show, but it doesn't take, to me, much to put it together. We saw the mom in the room at the beginning of the episode, so I think it stands to reason that's who he's talking to. And of course, who else would he be talking about their kids with? Like, oh, they're so grown up. Dang, has he not seen his kids in a really long time? I wonder, because we all know they didn't grow up with Dad. They got or maybe Steve grew. I don't know who grew up with Dad, but a lot of them, at least we know Luke and Nell grew up with the aunt, right? And Shirley is like, huh, what you talking about? Did y'all see Theo immediately drink? punch every time I see her saying that, or do see her doing that, I should say. Steve is like, great job, you could do the eulogy. He has a huge bit of resentment at Daddy. A lot. I want to know why well, actually, no, we know why. Like, we get to that at the end of this episode. Dad does see Nell, but she's all in bent neck shape. And, oh my God, Nell is totally there. That's my notes. I don't even know why I wrote that in my notes. But I like that despite being really shitty when the dad does go in to see Nell, because they say, you want to see her? He's like, yeah, that's what we're here for. And he goes to, of course, say his goodbyes or his hellos, whatever you want to say in that moment. And the family is there, right there for him. So despite them all clashing at each other, they all seem to have each other's best interests at heart as far as like being there for them. Because Nell is the baby of the family. It's really sad what's happened. One of their own has died. And this is the second tragedy that's been a suicide in their family. So yeah, this is a huge blow. And despite whatever beef you got with your dad, that's his daughter, right? You're never gonna feel it like a parent feels it. So he tells Shirley that she did a good job, which really touches her. And I'm glad he said that. He's like, because you know how you see, you know, your child, they're sitting there. You're not gonna be I can't think of which word I want to say. You're not going to be comprehended, and you're also not going to be cohesive. He feels very broken, like he's stuck somewhere, because he's starting to say things, but he stops and he starts and he stops. And he says, you know, sometimes they put on too much makeup, you put on just enough. It's, you know, he's really thanking her for that, but he can't move any closer to her casket, of course. And he awkwardly asks for the bathroom. He awkwardly asks for the bathroom. And that's when we get our first flashback of the episode, which I didn't even think we were going to do this episode, because usually they get to him a lot quicker. He starts to go to the bathroom. He's starting to see the coffins, and then it immediately transitions back to Hill House, where he's watching an old memory of himself coming down the stairs as fucking the chandelier just breaks during a storm. And he's like, oh man, as he comes down the steps, like, dude, there should be expletives coming out of your mouth. No. Then here comes the mom, Olivia. She looked like she was buttoning herself up, and I was like, what was you doing? And that's when we find out he's like, you weren't in bed, where were you? And I'm like, what have you been up to? And we see in this episode what's been happening to the mom. She tells her husband she must have been sleepwalking, and I'm like, that's not a cause for concern. I feel like there are a few things though that are happening where I can totally see Steve's perspective. Like, dude, get some help for these people who need help. I would not see my wife acting like this and think, oh no, it's fine. Like, what was his reaction after this day? How close was this to the events of her dying? All the other kids come down except for Shirley, like, what the hell? And I'm so totally Theo in that moment, because that's the reaction that the parents should have had. And Nellie and Luke are like, we know what's up. This is the house. The mom's like, no, it's just a storm. Don't be afraid. And she starts to tell them, you know, I was afraid too of storms when I was your age as well. She has them sit on the staircase, and she has them count the thunder of the storm, because that tells them how close it is. So, you know, they hear one. She thinks it's closer, like a mile away or something. It's a good idea. I've never done it before. I wonder if I can. I'm going to try this next time there's a storm. And I was wondering at this moment, do y'all think that the house is some leftover curse that's haunting the mom, or is it just the house? No, because then the dad says at the funeral that you never understood Hill House. It felt to me, because the mom was all special, that maybe she was being haunted and that it followed her more so than it was just the house. Like, things happen in this house, yeah, but mom is the conduit between what happened in the house, the tragedy that happened here, and it influencing whatever happened in her childhood. I don't know. There are holes in that theory, but that's what I was thinking at this moment. Because if it's just the house, then where does it come into play the fact that all these kids kind of have powers, and the fact that Nellie has been haunting herself her entire life? I still don't know where that fits in. So Dad has Steve and himself move the chandelier out of the way so it doesn't hurt anyone, and they start hearing hail come down with the rain, because first they're like, what the hell is that? They're like, hail. And she starts to explain what hail is to Luke and Nellie, and that's when we hear a window explode, and the mom's like, everything's fine. I'm like, really? No, it's not. Shirley comes down the steps like, hey, my window totally just shattered for no reason. And I'm like, Shirley, did you sleep through the chandelier crash? They need to, you don't need to sleep that deep, honey. Dad and Steve decide to go up and clean the mess. Mom is going to stay downstairs with the children, and she wants Shirley to go in the kitchen and make some cocoa. Shirley's like, no, I don't want to. She's like, well, take Theo and Luke with you. You've done it a million times. You know where this shit is. The lights go out. Everyone screams. And Nellie, it was not that dark. Why you had to keep moving away? Because you saw the dad come back down really quick, like, oh, what's going on? I'll get the flashlights. And she starts like moving back, and she keeps moving back into the next room, and she keeps looking around like she can't see. And I'm like, girl, it's really not that dark. I'm gonna need you to adjust. But she sees the bent neck lady, runs, mom grabs her, and she's like, I saw the bent neck lady, one of the statues. And mommy tells Nellie something really interesting at this moment that her dad, of course, doesn't hear. That, hey, I see people in this house too, but they won't hurt us. No, this is the time where we get the fuck out of the house. I'm sorry, if I am a mother and I am seeing demons or whatever the fuck I'm seeing, I'm not gonna stay in the house. Maybe that's why she didn't think nothing was wrong. Maybe she's so used to just seeing ghosts that she's like, oh, it's fine. They're totally not gonna hurt anyone. But these aren't ghosts, these are demons. That's totally my supposition, but I don't care. Anyway, Mom tells Nell, or again, after she tells her that, the dad comes in. He's got, some flashlights, and he's having them put batteries in them with Steve and the rest of them. And Nellie is like, I'm scared as shit. We about to get taken out. We need to go. Theo has Nellie's hand because the mom tells her that. Wait, didn't Shirley make a comment and was cracking up? She's like, you wear those to bed now? I was laughing my ass off. And they're holding hands. I didn't understand why Nellie and Theo weren't closer. It didn't make sense to me. If that's your only part of light and it's supposedly that dark, then they should be closer to you. But Dad remarks that this storm wasn't his first or the worst or something, whatever. He starts talking about how it's kind of fun. And I'm like, really? And they find out that the storm is moving away because the lightning is further. And they start to count when they realize Nellie's gone. Theo was totally still grasping her hand like she was holding it. And I was like, who is it that you holding the hand? Mom goes looking for Nellie with Dad. Luke is like, look, the house got her. No, that's not what he said. He just asked, what if the thing gets her? They're like, no, dear. No, I was like, no, dear, she has to grow up first. The bent luck lady. But they like, no, she probably ran upstairs, ran underneath her bed, because that's totally what you would do. Stupid. And Mom and Dad continue to search while they leave the kids downstairs. Steve is totally in charge, and he's trying to be big bro to Luke. He's like, look, we got this. Nothing bad's gonna happen. And he's saying, Luke, Luke, Luke. It comes to the present where Steve is asking Luke what was the weird word that Nellie used to say when they made up as little kids. But Luke is totally out of it, and he's recounting this story when Nellie was 10 years old, how she used to make these made up words. Shirley is there as well. She's in front of Steven, and Dad is also there. Theo remembers what the word is. She said it was like Hufflepuff or I don't know. And says that she used to do those for her letters, and she's like, look, I want a new story. Theo is very drunk. She's like, I don't care if you tell a story, just tell me a new story about Nellie. And he's like, that's the only story it got, because apparently he didn't get to live with Aunt Janet for long. He moved with someone else, and like I said, I don't know who the hell he grew up with. Shirley tells Theo she needs to settle it down there with the drinking, and she's like, I'm trying to drink Nellie back to life. Shirley, you would be better if you took a few more drinks yourself, is all I'm saying. Plus, this girl's still standing. Let her be. There's Dad. I thought he was still in the bathroom. That's why I wrote my notes. Because before, when they first panned around in the room, I didn't see him. And he actually was still in the room because I thought he was in the bathroom. He says that she got the word thing from her mother. No, he just says she got that from her mother. And that's when Shirley says alcoholism. And Theo's flipping off Shirley in the background as she goes to refill her drink. Dad tells a different story of Nellie writing to Santa. And that she would always ask for presents for her sisters and brothers, but never for herself. And she would always include where they were because they moved around a lot. Why did they move around a lot? I feel like there's more to that story than, hey, I just fixed houses, but whatever. She said that they were, he says that they were handwritten and that he would always read them despite, you know, not being able to afford half the shit. They had to get stuff for the family members, him and the mom, because they would feel really bad if they basically let Nellie down. Shirley is crying and she says, well, 2 of us decided to die. There was 7 of us. Now there's 5 of us because Mom and Nellie decided to kill themselves. And they should know, Nellie should have known how that was going to bring pain to the family. But then she acknowledges that they were in so much pain that they decided to kill themselves. So she's just feeling resentful and bitter. She feels like she could have talked to her, Nellie that is. There's nothing she could have said that she wouldn't have been able to hear. But we all saw her dodging the call. This is what happens in tragedy when you're guilty and you feel like you could have done more because you know you didn't give 100%. Because at some point when someone cries wolf so many times, you tune out. It's natural. You shouldn't be beating yourself up for it. We have lives. There's only so much in our lives we can ever deal with, especially when you have a family. I mean, getting Shirley out of all of them. You know, she's got 2 children, she's got a husband, she's in a funeral business. At some point, you know, you're trying to be there, but you also have to take care of yourself. You can only take care of someone else when you are mentally taken care of. And I don't feel like Shirley she has a lot of issues. That's all I'm going to say. Steve wants to know what Dad is holding back because after she tells this, or no, Luke tells the story, right? He recalls a time that they were camping and Steve had pretended to be a bear and he was really scared, but Nellie said, we're fine, we're protected in here because they're invisible. And this invisible thing is getting to me, man, because we bring that up a little at the end of the episode. So I'm wondering if that was a whole other thing that Nellie was still dealing with her own trauma that no one picked up on. It's the signs, right? That's what Steve's been wanting. What's the signs is what he kind of asks about next, because he's like, I want to go back to what you were talking about before with his dad. And he's like, well, all the times that Nellie was writing these letters, did you mention her state of mind? Did you figure out what was happening with her? Because he feels like Dad is holding something back, because it's like, you know how that when these things happen that you're the person who don't give up all the answers. And Dad is like, well, you want to know what happened? Mrs. Dudley called. She stated she never saw her car. Miss Dudley is the one that found Nellie and apologized for throwing up, and that she was found hanging by the spiral staircase. And they've been wanting these deets all the time. And then they're like, well, did she call anybody, reach out to anyone? And Steve brings up the crashing of the book signing. Like, did that sound like Nellie? Or yeah, did that sound like Nellie? Shirley says, no, that does not sound like Nellie, and that she was seeing a new therapist after Arthur. And Theo chimes in, still drunk, that no doctor should have kept her on as long a leash. Like, they should have had her on a shorter leash. So they're looking for someone to blame, of course, to what happened, because they do feel like maybe this came out of nowhere, because the whole thing with Steve was 5 months ago, is what he said. Dad says that he did talk to her that night, because they asked, because Shirley says, well, like, she called me and the day before and I didn't pick up. Steve's like, yeah, she called me too, even though he's totally not trying to cop to the fact that she called him. And Dad's like, oh no, I talked to her that night. She said she was worried and that the bent neck lady had came back. Kevin's like, who the fuck is the bent neck lady? Steve's like, there it is. And he is all up in Dad's ass because he thinks that he should have done something more. He's like, well, I told her to call you. I sent her to you. That's what I did. And he thinks, no, you should have never been pretty much living into this fantasy with her that something was wrong with the house, that there's things. You should have done more to protect her. And he says, that's all I've been trying to do. And Steve says, why do I need protection from the truth? And that's when Dad's like, oh no, and then he stops and he says, he's entitled. And Steve's like, this is what I'm fucking talking about. You're talking to air and no one is saying a fucking thing about it. Why does our family have a problem with saying mental illness, acknowledging what it is? And he says that, the dad that is, that you are entitled to your anger. You all are. Shirley tells him that he needs to check himself before he wreck himself, because here's Steve going out about how Dad has exploited Nell and her delusions and blah, blah, blah. And bitch, you wrote a book. And Theo's like, here we go. Even though I'm totally giving him props, because he did not dime on Theo once when Shirley was going off. Not once. Not once. But Shirley's still really mad about that book. She's like, she goes off on her tangent once again. And then at the end of it's like, and Theo's drunk. You shouldn't be drunk at your sister's viewing. And Theo's like, what the fuck you bring me in on this shit? Like, even though Theo, you was like, oh, here goes the book again. And finally she just looks at her and is like, I took the money, bitch. Look, I took it. I started my career. No, that was after. She went to go sit on the couch and then she fell and hit her head. And there was Kevin and Luke trying to help her up. And then she's like, don't fucking touch me. Oh. No, she did say that before. I'm lying. No, that was afterwards. Yeah. So then she's like, because that was so funny when she fell on the floor, because that is so weird. I'm still laughing because it was very accurate. It was very well done. It really felt authentic. And she's like, bitch. She's like, you don't get to call me a bitch in my own house. That's afterwards, because after she said I took the money, it's good fucking money, the royalties haven't dried up. Like, stop being up your ass about this. It's money. Jesus Christ, we made money off of our tragedy. It's fine. People do it all the fucking time. And I'm sorry, it's still not like, and I get people are gonna be mad about this. Sorry if I hit my microphone about 4 times, but Steve had a family meeting. He gave them a chance to say what they was going to say. Surely, if you wanted to sue him, sue him. Sue him for slander. Nellie, if anyone should be pissed, it should be Nellie and Luke, because it's not even like, I get what she's upset about. He made money off of their tragedy. However, it's been years. Don't bring it up every fucking time you see Steve. Like, let it go. At some point, you just gotta let it go. And Shirley doesn't even believe it at first. She's like, you're drunk. She's like, nope. Yep, but I'm right. Shirley go tell her that you've been at my house, living with me for years, lying to my face, then you go call me a bitch, you've been eating my food, ain't been paying rent, living for free. Theo's like, bitch, I offered to give you rent and you didn't take it. But she's like, well, get out of my face, you ain't staying in my house no more, I'm kicking you out. Steve's like, stop, you're embarrassing yourself right now, you don't even know it. Doesn't dime out Kevin. Neither did Theo. Neither one of them, even though he did look at Kevin like, you gonna stop this? Like, you need to really calm her the fuck down, because she's talking out of her ass and she don't even know it. And she tells Steve, Shirley that is, you can kick rocks too, everybody get the fuck out of my house. Steve tells her that she needs to get off her high horse. And I was like, yeah, really, Shirley, you do? And you did dictate to everybody, because that's what Theo says. No one agreed to not take the money. You stood up there and said, nobody's fucking taking the money. And you just assumed everybody was going to be like, okay, let's just do what Shirley says. But then, whoop, there it is. Kevin can't deal with it no more. And he's like, we took the money.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
And he had good excuses for it. He said, babe, you've been doing pro bono, special cases, all this other shit that's been bankrupting us. How did you think we was gonna eat? Like, how idiotic. He tells her that the checking account from the other day was there, because she's like, how the fuck? She's like, no, I put it in a separate account. Like, we didn't do it, I did it, but we are the ones that benefited from it, meaning you. Meaning, how, again, there is a part of that me that's thinking, Shirley, you're naive. How the fuck did you think all this shit was keeping afloat? You ain't even involved in the finances. You got the... Anyways, I'm really trying to find Shirley's side of this. I just don't like Shirley. Shirley's like, she's not unsympathetic because she seems stubborn. And she also seems like she's, I don't know, I just can't get with her. Anyway, she's like, you have humiliated me. And I'm like, girl, you was humiliating yourself. I mean, yeah, he should have told her. I ain't gonna lie. But at the same time, it's really hard to feel sorry for you, Shirley, because trying to have a conversation with you is talking to a brick wall. It's like, you don't understand. He's like, how else was I able to enable your ass and not put our whole entire family under without taking this damn money? What did you expect? Shirley says, I can't look at either of you. And Theo's like, do I really have to move out? And he's like, no, just give her space. She just needs her space. She's like, I need more vodka. And he's like, it's down in the basement, go get it. But you're the waiter, dude. So she sends him to get the vodka, or they went together, right? And that's when the dad goes to, or say, let's go to the hotel room and give your sister some space. He's trying to get Luke and Steve out of the place because Shirley's going back to, you know, talk to the only person that she loves is Nell. And he says, we're all wounded. And Shirley's like, the fuck, who did this? And that's when all the boys go into the room and we see that Nellie has 2 buttons on her eyes. And Luke's like, I swear I didn't do this. Steve's like, of course, throwing his dad under the bus because he can't stand his daddy. And he's like, well, you were the last one up here. He's like, I didn't do this. I don't know what the hell's going on. And that's when the power goes out. And that's when Shirley's like, goddamn night. Just damn it. And she goes to put the generator back on. They go get flashlights. Luke and Steve, that is. And poor daddy sees bent neck Nellie. I'm not gonna say lady. It's bent neck Nellie. Calling out like, daddy. And he's so unfazed. He's just like, oh, Nellie. Like, if I saw my dead kid, I'd be like, this is really sad. But of course, apparently he's been seeing his dead wife for years. And we get another flashback where mom and dad, this scene really bothered me a lot. Because the mom and dad are looking for Nellie. They left the kids downstairs. It's supposedly really dark in this house. First and foremost, where the fuck your kid go that quick? Why would she be underneath beds? And then they start casually talking about the roof. And like, that's important right now. Your kid's missing. You're in the middle of the storm. You got other kids downstairs terrified. And you're talking about how the roof is going to be fucked up and we'll look in the morning. His flashlight goes out and he makes the stupid comment like, oh, I just put batteries in this. No shit, we all saw it. And the mom, he goes to get more or whatever, more lights or batteries, and the mom's alone. She goes into that dead grandma's room, and apparently they forgot to shut the chimney thing, whatever. I know what it is, I just can't remember the name of it, because there's water all over the floor from the rain getting in, and she's like, oh, the fuck. And then we see the grandma sitting up in bed, all looking evil, and she goes out in the hallway, and there's a door rattling. And when she opens the door, there's this little boy in there in a wheelchair. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Where'd he come from? Mom, or Liz that is, begins to sleepwalk as soon as she sees this boy. Like, she drops her flashlight and follows him. And the dad comes upon her flashlight and is like, Liz? And I'm like, dude, check on the kids first. Because he totally was following her. And there was like another huge clap of lightning. And he didn't even, no, he didn't. Never mind. I'm sorry. This is not the part where he didn't check on the kids. It was after the window exploded that I wanted him to check on the kids. At this point, he did. He's like, y'all all right down there? And they were like, yeah. And then he continues to follow Liv. And she walks into a dead end and then reappears on the other side of the hallway. And I was like, that's not Liv. Liv just can't disappear out of a dead end space and end up all the way over there. But he, the windows all come out as he's walking down this one hallway, because he's like, stay away from the windows, Liv, and stay away from those kids. Did he say that? I don't know. But Liv is grown. That's when I was like, he needs to go downstairs with the kids, because she's running all around, and she's standing in front of this window with her hands all up, and it explodes. And I was laughing my ass off because he didn't run to like protect her. He just was like, oh no, and crouched. But I guess, oh, okay, I get it now. Maybe I'm being too harsh, because this actually really didn't happen, so the kids wouldn't have heard this, right? Okay, I'm being harsh. They shit parents anyway, I don't care. But the glass isn't broken. Liv's not even there. She's on the ground somewhere, all in this other hallway. And she's like, I'm having the strangest dream. I'm like, you're not okay. She's not okay, Hugh. Get her out. All the kids begin to scream, and that's when he comes downstairs. Steve is like, there's an animal in here. Even I saw it. He's like, these kids is hysterical, but I saw that shit. Shirley pipes up that it had big eyes. He's like, I don't know about all that. But it's like a big wolf. And they've been hearing dogs barking, right? Nellie is still missing. This is when I was like, what the hell? And Dad gives chase to the dog, and that's when he turns the flashlight around, and Nellie is back. She's just hyperventilating and traumatized as fuck. Back in the present, Luke is calmly lighting candles. You would think he would be the one freaking the fuck out. But he's with Dad, and he's like, have they turned the lights back on? They're like, no. You think they are? No. Think it's because of the storm? No. They both totally know what's up. He starts asking him, like, hey, you think Nellie killed herself? Nope. But you already know that, don't you, Luke? And Luke got more questions, though. He's like, if she didn't do it to herself, who did it to her? It was the house, right? Is that the same thing that happened to Mom? And Dad says, well, what happened to Mom is complicated. So that's when I put in my notes, is Mom evil? What is going on? She didn't particularly... They said she wasn't murdered, but she didn't kill herself. So what does that mean? The way that Luke is so clearly aware, though, I'm here for it. He says, why is it complicated, Dad? And then the other kids, of course, conveniently come in. Shirley and Steve, that is. And they still talking about, why is the lights out? I don't understand. Steve's like, it's not off the rest of the block. It's only our house. Just leave. Y'all go home. At this point, y'all drunk. You've seen Nellie. Let's go home. This ain't my issue. This is Shirley issue. Steve thinks that Dad is propping up Luke's delusions because he's asking what happened to Mom. Dad said that, you know, Nellie didn't kill herself, and Mom, it was complicated. He's like, you listen to Dad? He's fucking crazy. Don't listen to Dad. And he's like, I'll leave the room for 5 seconds, and he jumps down his dad's ass for propping up him. He's like, you start working on him. You worked on Nellie. And he said, Dad says, I'm not trying to upset anyone. Have you seen Steve? He looks already upset. And so is everyone else, for that matter. He starts to talk about Mom, said no, he's not going to want to hear that from me. He's talking to Mom, I should say. And he's like, see? Right there. Y'all saw that shit, right? Come on. This is when he makes the line, you know, why does this family have such a hard time saying the words mental illness? And I couldn't even, you know, I'm on Steve's side right now. If I was just watching my dad talk to his fucking self, I'd be like, see what I'm talking about? Come on. There's no one gonna say anything. Shirley saw it too. And so did Luke. And that's when Dad's like, okay, fine. I'm gonna explain. Nellie didn't die. Hill House killed her. Luke and Nell saw its face clearer. And that Steve never understood Hill House. Steve's like, this is some bull and some shit. This is all on you. You've been doing this since we were a kid. Shirley's just standing there lapping it up because she's really stuck. I almost felt bad for Shirley at this moment because she really don't know what to do with herself. He said everything that he's done, it's been for a good reason. And Steve is like, you know what? I think you're responsible for everything. And he yells that the wrong parent died. And I was like, ooh, damn, Steve. And that's when poor Nellie's coffin just falls. I was trying not to laugh, but I have flashes of death at a funeral. But she was clearly like, stop, enough. Like, come on, y'all can't be in a room for 5 fucking seconds without seriously ripping each other's guts out. Like, we ain't even talking about little prokes. Y'all is just tearing each other's life apart. But it's good to know that Steve totally hates his dad. He has he thinks that he should have died instead of Mom. He probably thinks this is your genes. He's like, you got fucked up genes in your family because obviously you've been talking to yourself. Mom was fine, and now Nellie's dead, you talked to her last, and Mom's dead, you talked to her last. You're the fucking problem. That's how Steve has fixed this up in his mind. And of course, after this, they are all, of course, horrified. And they immediately go to pick up her coffin and put it back right, even though they don't put it back on its little thing. And Shirley's just holding her, and she's like, I can't deal. I need to fix her makeup. And she's like, I gotta go get my kit. And she leaves, and the dad's finally had enough, and he's leaving as well. And he's like, it's all right, boys. Like, for the most part, he's like, I get why you're acting the way you're acting. It's like, I can explain it to you all you want, but it's a lot to ask. And as Shirley is walking down looking for her kit, she comes upon Theo and Kevin in the wine room, and she totally walks out like they was doing something. I was like, girl, you know your sister is not into the dick. She don't like that stick. So I need you to come out of your emo phase, because Kevin went to chase her and she still was ignoring him. And obviously Kevin came to Theo, was like, who the fuck is Bit-Leg Lady? And Theo probably started dropping all of her tea. Like, do you know what I know? Like, you don't even know who you signed the fuck up and married. So yeah, Kevin he don't know what the hell's going on. He trying to get some answers, and he had to help Theo when she needed some vodka. So I felt like, yeah, they're trying to make that a thing. I really don't think Theo went in for even if it was just to piss her sister off. You know that's not her style. You know that. So I just felt like her in that moment should have been like, okay, what the fuck? Stay in the room, act like an adult. Because to me, even if I was to walk in on my boo, I don't have one, but if I was to walk on my boo, I'm not walking out of that room. Hell no. We about to go at it now. If that was what was going on, I'm about to beat your ass, and then me and my sister gonna have to work this shit out because we're blood and you're water. We get another flashback, and the lights come back on. The lights came back on in the house too once Nell came out of her body. She was like, look, I was trying to get y'all to see my ass. Y'all tripping. I'm gonna turn the fucking lights back on. Jesus. And Nellie said that she was there the whole time. This freaked me the hell out. And she said she was screaming, shouting, and no one saw her. Her mom remarks that she's freezing. And I was like, oh, we doing upside down? Is that where we're going with this? That she went to the upside down world? Shirley looks totally freaked that she's seen Nellie in this flashback. And then we go back to the present where Steve grabs Luke to leave. He's holding Nellie's hand. And we hear Nellie yelling from when she was a child in her younger voice, don't do that ever again. I'll never let, that's when Luke is saying to Nell when she was a child, don't do that ever again. I'll never let you go again, I promise. And young Nell was like, I was right there the whole time. None of you could see me. Nobody could see me. And it's tragic as fuck because she's standing right there the entire time. And the only person who saw her was her dad. And he can't even get anyone else on this train with him because it's a lot to ask. It is. You can't tell people in the even now. Even me knowing all this shit, you could not come up to me in my house tomorrow and be like, Christina, there's a ghost in your room. I'd be like, okay, whatever you say. And I believe in ghosts. That's the fucked up part. But you could not commit, you would not. And then not only that, if you know there's a ghost, what can you do? There's a ghost holding you. You're either gonna sound crazy, or you gotta go and find a ghost hunter and you know all of them are shams anyway. So what are you supposed to do with that knowledge? I feel like even that they have to deal with in this family. Like, what do you do with that knowledge? So that is episode 7. Really good. Can't wait to see what happens next. I want so much more backstory on the dad, but I know they're holding that back because he has more answers than anyone else. I hope that's next episode. And then what's going on with Steve? There's a gap of time that we're missing. Remember, he was with Lee? And now he's clearly seeing Mom. So something has happened with Steve that has at least made him feel that maybe he's, the family might not be so crazy. If you want to send feedback, you can send that to blackgirlcouch@gmail.com for episodes 9 and 10. Yep, because there's been 2 episodes left after get done tonight. And then my social medias will be below. You can find this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, and Podbean at Black Girl Couch Reviews. Till next time.